Y'all, I've lived in China for years. I lived in 2 different cities in 2 different areas. One, Chongqing, the other, Wuhan. And let me just say, based on these 104% tariffs from Trump, China gonna be all right. There's nothing that China needs from the United States. Not science, tech, medicine, not automobiles, textile, leather goods, food. Hell, even their social media better than ours. And this is a reminder that the tariffs aren't just happening when you order from Shein. Basic stuff like the packaging of your lip liner can be made in China. And as a result, will require companies in which you buy products from to go up in their prices. So listen, economists estimate that these tariffs are going to cost American households anywhere between $4,000 to $8,000. Now, a trip to Shanghai gonna run you about $1,300. Take a couple empty bags, the big size ones, and stock up. Cause it's finna be a cold winter in the US of A. Oh yeah, and also if your page is only peddling products from the TikTok shop, I'm reporting it for crimes against humanity. Y'all see what's going on. We don't need.
One thing that this tariffs nonsense has really shown me is just how alienated most Americans are from the products that they consume day in, day out. They genuinely have zero idea the production process that goes into like the vast majority of their little consumer habits. Like there are genuinely people, voters, who have the understanding that, what do you mean? Food comes from the grocery store, right? Like the takeaway when you hear the price of an iPhone could jump up to $100,000 per phone if it were wholly made in the United States should really be, oh my God, the rest of the world is directly subsidizing the American consumer lifestyle. Someone pointed out, oh, the tariffs on Madagascar are going to radically increase the price of vanilla, which will have massive knock-on effects on the rest of the market. And people were like, what do you mean? We'll just grow our own vanilla. Naturally, those people got absolutely schooled on how impossible that is and how demanding vanilla cultivation really is. But the lesson there is that the only reason we can have bottles of vanilla extract for like $5 a pop is because the global neoliberal order has turned the global periphery in like countries like Madagascar into export-oriented economies. Are these tariffs a good policy? No. But the prosperity that Americans enjoyed under free trade is because of the exploitation of the global south. And that's actually more problematic. To the point where Americans don't even know that in order for them to have $5 t-shirts and caramel macchiatos, there are hundreds of millions of people in the global south, faceless hordes to most of you, who had to suffer lives of poverty and exploitation and death. That is the original sin of the American economic system, and until we solve this problem of alienation, of people not knowing where their stuff comes from and who made it, we're just going to be squabbling over different modes of exploitation.
Mr. President, Donald Trump is ruining the economy on purpose. He is ruining the economy on purpose. I'm not sure if there's ever been an American president, let alone a chief executive of any country, that has ruined the economy on purpose. The stock market had its worst day in 5 years yesterday, and I just checked before I delivered these remarks, just before, 5 minutes ago, 1,600 down on the Dow Jones. The S&P down 5%, NASDAQ 4%, the Russell 5%. What does that mean as a practical matter? It means if you spent all your life working and saving and investing, and you are on the edge of retirement, and let's say you've got $312,000 plus your Social Security income. You just lost 30 grand in 2 days because of Donald Trump. Because of Donald Trump, you lost 10% of what you earned over a lifetime. Now, for Howard Lutnick and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and everybody that surrounds him at Mar-a-Lago, they can ride this out. They can short it, they can buy crypto, they can do all kinds of wonderful things to make sure that they can ride this out. Regular people cannot ride this out.
Trump just announced that he's going to put a 104% tariff on China at midnight because they missed the deadline to renege on their 34% tariffs, I believe. 104% is a weird number, by the way. So everything from your electronics to your plates, your clothes, your toys, textiles, everything will go up. Probably double or triple. As I look around my house, pretty much 85 to 90% of the stuff I have is made in China. Go figure. So my question is, where does this stop? We already at 104% tariff. Is China going to be like, all right, well, guess we got to fold it? They don't. They don't have no presidential campaigns. They don't have no elections. They can literally just wait this out. They can do this for 4 years. So for 4 years, we could be paying double and triple prices until the next person get in office, if the next person gets in office. We're losing. They're gonna make it seem like we winning this trade war. We're not. We're losing. We might not feel it right now, but if this shit keep going on for the whole term, our pockets go feel it. Like it was already feeling it before, but 104% on 80% of the stuff we use on a daily, or we buy monthly. All right.
Good morning, Africans. You probably have heard about Trump has placed, tariffs on China. He has placed 104% tariff on China. And I'm telling you, the whole internet is blowing up, People are reacting here and there. People are showing their frustrations. People are just not happy about this, So you understand that tariffs are extra taxes that are placed on foreign produces that are exported into a country. You understand that import is the products that are brought into a country, and export are those which are brought inside, export inside, import outside. So Trump has an excuse of putting more tariffs, because more tariffs means more taxes. And who is going to hurt is the common citizen. The person who's going to hurt is the common black person, the common white person, and the common American residents, So China itself does not hurt in this. It doesn't hurt. What will hurt China is just the sales. But come on, we have so many markets apart from American market. America is not the only market for Chinese products, right? We know that also that China has always had tensions with the United States of America. It's no big news. Also, this is not a surprise, So these tariffs are creating a mixed reaction among different Americans. Some are in support of this, and some are not in support of this. And these are the kind of situations where you find that there is no racial divide. The arguments are not racially based. This is just a situation of economics, and this economics cuts across everyone, regardless of race. So what I mean is that black people, some are in support, some are against. White people, some are in support, some are against. We have the Latinas, we have those other communities. Some are in support, some are against it. Now, I want us to watch this, listen to each and everyone's argument, whether they're in support or not. I shall get back. I shall share with you my thoughts by the end of the video, where we shall also have a deep, critical analysis. Let's dive in.
I think the tariffs are working, and I think the Democrats are pushing fake news. This is why I think this. First of all, they want to say that Donald Trump is only for the millionaires and billionaires. First of all, if the stock market is being destabilized, don't you think the millionaires and billionaires are the ones hurting right now? Let's keep that in mind. One thing that the Democrats are not telling you, that interest rates are going down right now. It's happening right now. Another thing that they're not telling you, not only is interest rates going down, you got other countries willing to come to the table with the United States, one of which, Vietnam, they got like a 90% tariff on America. They want to reduce it to 0. You've got South Korea. They want to start reducing their tariffs. You got other countries coming to the table and playing ball. People don't understand this, right? China has had high tariffs on America. We just been sitting back, allowing it to happen, not really doing nothing about it. Every Democratic candidate wanted to say, oh, China's taking advantage of America. Oh, we got to do something about this. And they never did anything about it. Trump is the one that did something about it. Check this out. So in order for them to, a way for them to circumvent the tariff from the United States, what they were doing is bringing over their goods over to Canada and bringing them through Canada so that they can have a lower tariff, and bringing them through Mexico so they can have a lower tariff. But now that Trump is putting a 25% tariff on Canada, a 25% tariff on Mexico, and a tariff on China, they can't do that no more. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of destabilizing things. One thing that people don't understand, right? Like, people want to say, oh, well, the stock market is going down. A lot of working class people, some people do invest in the stock market. I invest in the stock market, but a lot of working class people don't invest in the stock market unless they do it maybe like an S&P 500, or they may have like a 401k or something like that. But other than directly one-on-one investing with the stock market, a lot of people don't do that, right? And the reason why people don't do that is because they feel like stock prices are high and they're too expensive, right? What now, the business prices, or the stock prices of a lot of businesses are going down. It's opening up the market to the point to where regular Joes can go in there and start investing and end up getting a lot of money in the long run. You know what I'm saying? That's something that people are not thinking about. So the fake news, instead of, you know, helping this situation, they want to talk about Trump. Why is the fake news not talking about the oil prices going down? Y'all not notice that? Went down a lot. Oil prices, remember they kind of, you know, kind of unreasonable. Now they're down. Interest rates are down. Oil prices are down. What y'all need to do, buy anything and everything that you got to buy right now before the tariffs hit, the Chinese tariffs hit. What, like April 10th? Do that right now. Buy whatever you want to buy. Amazon, buy whatever you want to buy, anywhere you want to buy, right? Do it now. That way we could sit back and wait and watch the fallout. Europe wanted to say, okay, well, we want to do a 10% tariff on automobiles. We want to reduce that to 2.5% because they see that Trump is standing firm. Now they want to come out and say, oh, well, we're looking at other countries and trying to do business with and not just rely on the United States solely. This is what they're doing today. It's what they're saying. But what they're not showing you is that the countries that they're looking at doing business with are very, very small. Very small. They don't have the market that the United States have. Like, we're big consumers. You know, don't let the fake news and the lady that's speaking for the EU or whatever, like, make y'all think anything different. I've been over there to Europe. The size of their countries are about the size of a state. You know what I'm saying? Or smaller. So they're not big. United States is massive and it's a big market. So even if they get other countries on board and, you know what I mean, or other, you know what I mean, like, it's not going to be the same impact as the United States. It's not. You know what I mean? So let's let the chips lie where they lie. And you also got to think about this in terms of military power. We have vast military power, and we've been policing the world for years. You know, while are policing other countries for years and helping them with our military, when they don't do anything for us, all they do is sit back and take from us, you know, and watch us spend hundreds of billions of dollars with Zelensky and just sit back and, you know, like, we tired of it. You know what I mean? Why are we supporting these countries if they're not going to do it, if they're not going to accept our products and our goods? You know what I'm saying? I'm rolling with Trump on this. I want to see where this goes, and I want to see where the strain hits. And all of these political people can get on stage and say, oh, well, we're going to retaliate against America, and we're going to do that. They're going to come to the table because you know who ends up paying for them at the end of the day? It's the businesses. When those business investors start taking their money and moving them, their money out of the stocks of the companies and moving them into more bonds to where they're a little bit more safe, it's going to allow the government to be able to use money if they need to, also help and reduce the interest rates. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's going to end up affecting things. You know, where companies are going to say, hey, man, we put money in y'all pockets so y'all can get elected, this, that, and the third. Y'all got to do something for us, you know, and they're going to end up playing ball with the companies. And you know what the companies want to do? Because I hear them talking far and wide. In Canada, they're talking about this. Companies in China are talking about this. They want to start manufacturing in the United States to avoid the tariffs. Right? That's the biggest way you can avoid the tariff. Manufacture in the United States. They said that, a bunch of companies said that in Canada already. You see even Apple is starting to invest in the United States. They did not want to build anything in the United States, but they want to invest now $500 billion. I think it is somewhere 300 or 500 billion in the United States. You know what I'm saying? And all $1.2 trillion, all these different companies are trying to invest in the United States. Even Saudi Arabia is trying to invest in the United States because they see what is going on. And people are so against the tariffs. Oh, the tariffs are so bad. Did you just see what the Democrats did? They ended up hiring 80-something thousand IRS agents. Why do you think they did that? It's to come after you and me. That's what it was for. Trump fired a lot of IRS agents. Why do you think he did that? Because he's looking at the tariffs and what they could potentially bring into the government. Not only did he have Elon Musk reduce the expenditures of the government by doing the forensic audit of the Treasury Department, now they can see where all the money was going, so they can adjust things accordingly, shrink the size of the government, and that way they don't need a bunch of money from the American people to really operate. They could just use the tariffs to do it. You know, so why do you think Trump is saying, hey, if you're an American and you make under $150,000 a year, we want to go ahead and make sure you don't pay no taxes, or y'all shouldn't have to pay taxes? Or if you know what I mean, if you're a citizen and you working for tips and stuff like that, you shouldn't be paying taxes on tips. You working overtime, you shouldn't be paying overtime, you know, or paying taxes on overtime. Why do you think he's doing that? You know what I mean? I think he needs another source of income in order to bring money in so that the government can function, and the tariffs is the key. You know, what he's trying to do is not going to happen overnight. The Democrats are going to try to use MSNBC, CNN, all of these different New York Post, all of these different, you know, Wall Street Journal, anything that they can to alter your mind and think this is bad. You know, but all in all these candidates from the Democratic and Republican Party always saying that they wanted to bring manufacturing back to America, and Trump is actually doing it. So yeah, when they put the camera in Trump's face and they asked him, yo, what do you think about the tariffs? He not backing down. He's got to show the world stage, I'm not backing down on this. I'm not going to start tariffs and then just pull them back just because it's a little bit of pressure. Y'all think y'all putting pressure on us? No. We're seeing what the market is doing, and the market is reacting accordingly. And the companies are going to start being affected. People are going to move their money out, and the companies are going to start bringing their companies here. Yeah, we're going to do that 25% tariff on steel, 25% tariff on aluminum and all of that. It's a market. If you're building a building, or you're building cars, you're going to start looking for where you can get the product from cheaper. You know what I mean? And a lot of these companies, I think they're going to start coming back to America. That's the grand plan. I don't care what CNN or MSNBC, fake news, The View says, or they try to spew a Jasmine Crockett, like craziness. I care about what the president is doing. And to me, since he's been president, he's at least 96% of his promises within the first 3 months have been done. You know what I'm saying? And he's got more work to do, and I think he's doing a good job by doing it. You know what I mean? Like, he's not using quantitative easing the old Ben Bernanke way. He's not doing that. He's tightening up the bootstraps of America and saying to these other countries, if you want a trade war, let's go. And we're going to end up winning in the end, because those countries, a lot of them are going to need our services. They need our military. They need us. We don't really need them as much. How many times do you look around your house and see something built from the EU, Europe? Think about that. You know what I'm saying? But Trump, I'm rocking with you. I'm rolling with you. Keep doing your thing.
I mean, let's be honest. If you put a tariff, you make everything coming in from abroad more expensive. That means people will buy less of it. They'll shrink their standard of living. If American companies take advantage of the tariff, which they always do, by raising their prices, that will also hurt the working class. On the one hand, we knew something like this was coming. On the other hand, the sweep and the scope of it does make you stop. Mr. Trump is right. It is a changing moment in American history and world history. But I think his representation of what's going on is completely fantastical and has only to do with the self-promotion that he is engaged in most of the time. It was never foreigners who did it to us, this notion of the United States as a victim. We have been one of the greatest beneficiaries in the last 50 years of economic wealth, particularly for people at the top just like him. It has nothing to do with foreigners taking advantage of us. This attempt to make himself strong and powerful relative to others, to blame the foreigner. These are cheap shots. This is a change. This is a sign to the world that as the United States empire declines, this is a nasty place that's going to gesture and thrash around doing damage everywhere as it copes with its own decline.
So Trump just destroyed my business, my small business. Trump announced his massive tax plan on items coming from other countries. He says that the countries are going to pay that. That's false. It's the person bringing it in. And I own a small business. I've been in operation since 2018. I've been incredibly successful, basically doubling my business every single year. And it's not a product that can be made here in the United States. But I've had a lot of people say, well, what about the tariffs before? Yeah, I didn't have any. That was 0% tariffs for me, 0% tax. He added 10% in February, then he added another 10% in March, and then yesterday he just announced an additional 34% on top of that. So for all products coming in from China, that is now 54%. So most retail goods, stores, products, there's about a 30 to 40% profit margin, okay? Profit margin. That profit margin, a lot of the times, that's not even a living wage, okay? But that 30 to 40% is how the people that own that business are able to live. And then there's still other expenses on top of that. 54% tax is more than the profit that most retailers or business owners would make. Well, a 54% tax. And I'm just paying that money straight to Trump.
If another 50% tariff goes on China at the end of this week, I definitely cannot move my product from China to the US. Effectively, when my product lands in the US, I will have paid 100% more for it, plus shipping. It will be absolutely zero profit from me and probably a loss. So my product's going to stay in China. It's going to sit in my manufacturer's warehouse for as long as they will accept that. I may have to just dispose of it. I won't make any money. The US won't make any tariffs. My Chinese manufacturer still gets paid, and I'm abandoning any future projects. This is what I mean when it starts to wind down trade. Tariff income is a hit, then it's a loss. Make sure you follow to keep up to date on this.
Should China worry about US tariffs?
We never worry about it.
Why not?
Yeah. We only focus on ourselves, how we can do much better. We don't worry about others.
So you don't worry about President Trump's next moves?
Of course. Nobody worry about it.
Everyone thinks Trump's tariffs are about a trade war with China or Europe, but they're not. They're about crashing the US economy on purpose, and here's why. The US has to refinance $9 trillion in debt by 2026. Most of that was issued when interest rates were near zero. But today, the 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.2%, and every single basis point adds billions in interest over time. So how do you bring yields down? Well, you slow down the economy, even if it hurts. And yes, tariffs usually push inflation up in the short term, but this isn't about the short term. This is about engineering a recession to bring yields down. It's not a trade war, it's a yield war. It's about refinancing America at a discount. So next time you see the headline about the trade war, actually watch the 10-year Treasury yield, because this is where the real story is being written.
81% of the cars in South Korea are made in South Korea. 94% of the cars in Japan are made in Japan. Toyota sells 1 million foreign-made automobiles into the United States, and General Motors sells almost none. Ford sells very little. None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries. And I say that, friend and foe, and in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. I don't blame these other countries at all for this calamity. I blame former presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe. That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles.
I want to highlight something. Donald Trump has argued over and over that we need to impose these tariffs because other countries have been ripping us off for years, taking advantage of the American people. The White House says the 10% tariffs are going to apply everywhere. Well, Wired and Axios pointed out something really important. Those taxes include the Heard and McDonald Islands. You can see right here on this massive list the administration put out on social media. But here's what you might not realize. Those islands, they're in Antarctica. They don't produce any exports. Do you know why? Because there are not any human beings that even live there. There is no possible way that they could be taking advantage of us on trade. What we do not know is if the penguins who live there will retaliate.
Donald Trump just cost red state Ohio thousands of jobs and $1 billion investment as Microsoft announces it's canceling its plans to build 3 data centers there. Take a listen to this.
We're hearing from Microsoft as it now halts plans to invest $1 billion here in central Ohio. The company had planned to build 3 data centers in Licking County in New Orleans.
Yeah, it had planned to build 3 data centers, but now that Donald Trump's tariffs are in effect, those plans are scrapped. Now, it should be noted that Microsoft did not give a reason, but you can bet that as these tariffs are in place, the stock market starts to shrink, there's economic uncertainty, companies have to pull back, and they have to make decisions on where they're going to cut back. And congratulations, Ohio, you voted for Donald Trump, and they decided they'd cut back with you. Those jobs you thought that were coming won't be headed your way. Not the construction, not the data center. But hey, at least you own the libs for a little bit, and that had to feel good, right? Just remember, we only got started. Keep dancing.
The Trump administration just put a tariff on this guy. That's right, this guy. This is George. George lives on an uninhabited island called Heard Island, uninhabited by humans, that is. And Trump just put a 10% tariff on this island, which begs, of course, the question, what did George ever do to Donald Trump and his buddies? This is how nonsensical these tariffs are. This is how absurd and capricious and uncoordinated these tariffs are. And while it might seem funny and absurd that they put a tariff on penguins, it shows just the reckless nature of what they're doing. They're crashing the economy, and it just could not be more self-destructive. We're alienating our friends and our allies, and even going after poor George.
You see, after watching this clearly, I can say with a clear conscious mind that Donald Trump knows what he is doing. You know, he knows how he's calculating. This is a man who has been a billionaire. He understands the movement of cash. He understands cash flow, you know. He's invested in real estate. He has a lot of Chinese customers who have bought his real estates in New York. So this is a man who understands economics, you know. And you can see that the white people, some of them are trying to give an excuse towards what he's doing. He's trying to make America great again, as he always claims, you know. But the way he is doing it is what is triggering all this, you know. The way he's formulating his policies of making America great again. You know, tariffs are going to create an inflation. And an inflation occurs when you need so much money to buy something which does not, or in a normal situation or in a common standard, that the value of that, let's say for instance, the phone I'm using to record this video with, say for instance it goes for $100. That's the standard price with no any inflation. Now when inflation occurs, you find that I'm going to buy this phone with maybe $150, you know, the 50 extra. Now the 50 extra is an inflation that has happened. It has been added on top, an extra tax. So what causes inflation are different factors. So for this one is a tariff, you know. China does not need America to sell. China does not need, it doesn't need America to excel. Actually, where China has gotten itself, it has not gotten there because of America. And truth be told, America has tried as hard as they can to make sure that China is down, you know. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm saying that during colonization, for instance in Kenya, during colonization, when most African countries in the 60s were still being colonized, the economies of most African countries were far beyond that of many Far East countries such as China, you know. And the moment the white person left and the black person became the president, we found a shift. You see, the equilibrium shifted. Now the balance, the one who was now improvising, the one who was now growing, were those Far East countries, such as China, we have Malaysia, we have Singapore. Back then, they were down, you know. This is because of the policies they placed and the agendas they placed to grow their country. But they grew their country not by placing tariffs, not by hurting themselves. And also, when the white person was still here in Africa, he wasn't playing the he wasn't playing the tariffs card, you know. The tariffs card, it might be a way to awaken the economy, but I'm telling you one thing. It's a short-term thing which might become a long-term thing, you know. America is falling. And America is falling in the hands of Donald J. Trump. You see, every kingdom, every empire does not last forever. The Ottoman Empire never lasted forever. You see, the Egyptian empires never lasted forever. And some of the reasons that made them not last, the Roman Empire is a good example, the Greek Empire, we had those Spartans, you know, they never lasted forever. There was a weakness that was there in the policy making, and the policy making of Donald J. Trump of tariffs. I may not be somebody who does economics, but tariffs, as I understand it, is a way of crushing the middle class. It's a way of crushing the middle class economy to the poverty level. The person who is really going to enjoy this is the billionaires. And remember, billionaires don't pay taxes. Who pays for the taxes? The middle class and the lower class. These are the people who pay the taxes, and these are the people who are going to get the full wrath of the tariffs. Trump might be passing his laws, but he is safe, and his family. He is safe with his billions. But what about you, the average American? How are you going to survive this? You see, this is the time that you buy assets, buy lands, buy things which will grow with value over time. You know, as Dr. Richard D. Wolff puts it, spare your money and use it wisely, mostly during this Trump era, because Trump has proven to be so unpredictable. We don't know what he might decide tomorrow. Anyways, you've been warned and you've seen. Trump 2.0, Trump 1.0 showed you who he was. You didn't believe him, but it was really a good advice if you could have believed what he told you he was, but you didn't believe. Right now you're finding out who Trump really is. Enjoy finding out, and please, just make the right choice with your finances. That is what might help you. I'm not a financial advisor in any way. I'm just giving my advice based on what I have researched on concerning the tariffs. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like what I do, you know what to do. Subscribe, give us super thanks, support me on Patreon. I'll surely appreciate, and see you in the next one.